those days of devotion, days of devotion, of devotion in the
I'm going to tell you the story of 3 roses and how these stories were given to me. This all began 3 years ago. I thought it began with my first dream, but now I know better. It was a conversation that cracked open the door and let the first dream in. I'm a survivor. Most of us are willing to talk about what happened. We are willing. It's just that nobody wants to listen. Our stories are too dark, too ugly, too disturbing. So nobody really listens, and our stories get stopped. So does the healing. The woman who's talking gets up and she leaves. She leaves me sitting alone and feeling strangely uneasy. You see, I've always thought of myself as a very good listener. It's my work. I listen to people's stories every day, and then I write plays so that you will come and you'll listen. So what has she said that's so disturbing to me? 2 days later, I have the first dream. In this dream, I'm seated at a round table. It's covered with a brightly colored cloth. I'm drinking dark roasted coffee with a middle-aged woman. The woman leans across the table and says in this matter-of-fact voice, "You have 3 years, that's all." The scene changes. I'm terrified. I'm running. Now I am skimming dark and raging waters. Then I begin to rise through this dense bank of clouds into a sunlit arbor where there are beds and beds of roses. I'm racing through the garden, looking for something I've lost. In the center of the garden, there's a woman. She's waiting for me, seated in a wicker chair, dressed in black, and I can't see her eyes or her face, but I'm not afraid, because when she speaks to me, her voice is low and lyrical and beautiful. So I begin walking toward the woman, and just as I reach her, I shrink into the size of a small child. I climb into the woman's lap, and she holds me until I fall asleep. The scene changes again. Now I'm my own size and age. I'm sitting in my living room. On my lap is a box. Inside this box are 3 red roses. I waken from this dream deeply shaken, and something else. I'm possessed. I am possessed by this dream. This dream has come alive. It is following me around all day long. It's like my conscience. It's like a challenge. It is like some secret I don't understand, and it won't let me go. Well, by evening, I know that I've got to do something about this, something very concrete and direct, and I say it. I'll write about you. I'll write my next play about you. I feel this amazing sense of relief. And that night, without knowing anything more than I just told you, I named this new play 3 Roses, give myself 3 years to write it, no more, no less, and that's the way it started 3 years ago. with this conversation, the dream, and my promise. I'm sure the secret of this dream, you see, it's hidden in the rose. So, I dedicate my first year to doing research on roses. I read hundreds of books. I try growing roses. I study rosette windows in European cathedrals. I begin to trace devotion to the Blessed Virgin. She's called Mother of Suffering Love and the Red Rose. And things start getting uncomfortable. It is with the suffering love part. The saints, the martyrs, there are severed limbs and torture and blood, and I start to write. The end of my first year comes, I've written 100 pages. I have written 100 first pages. I can't get beyond the first page. So, I take my second year off. I decide that I clearly need time to assimilate the research. Third year begins. I'm sitting in my studio at my desk. I've got a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach when the telephone rings. It's a reporter from a city newspaper. He wants an interview for the entertainment section. What have I been working on, he wants to know. 3 Roses, I tell him. Of course, he wants to know what it's all about. So I tell him my dream. And then to keep myself honest and make sure I don't squirm out of writing the play, I tell the reporter that I really don't have any idea what the rest of this play is about, but I'll have it finished by the end of this year because I promised that I would. 2 days later, this interview appears in the newspaper. The reporter has included my dream, word for word. And then he adds, the playwright has confessed that after 2 years of work, she still has no idea what she's writing about. The day that interview appears in the newspaper, I'm sitting in our local cafe drinking coffee when a woman that I don't recognize comes over to my table. Excuse me, may I sit down? Certainly, I tell her, indicating the chair opposite me. The woman removes a coat. She places it carefully over the back of the chair. My name is Carol, and I've met the woman in your dream. You see, I know about the box. It's a strange fairy tale that I want to tell you. It's a fairy tale of a sleeping princess. It will take me the rest of my life to complete. You see, it begins when I'm 3. I'm traveling all over the world, the third world, that is, where the divide between the rich and the poor, it's a huge gaping canyon. It's the 50s. My father has a high-level position with an American foundation, and we always travel with him. My mother, my older sister Fran, and I. Lebanon, India, Venezuela, Panama. We always set up in what seemed to me like castles, and they're on the rich side. We have servants, chauffeurs, we eat special imported foods. I play with Howdy Doody dolls, other toys. They're shipped from the United States just for me. We go to international schools. We drive in polished American cars through dusty streets. They're crowded with donkeys and camels and carts and people. But just on the other side of the rolled-up window panes of our American cars, they're the faces of skinny little girls, my age, boys, ragged shorts, bare feet. Their dirty fingers are pressed up against the rolled-up window pane of the car. Don't look, my mother says. It encourages begging. but I always look. I swallow what I see. And then at night, so that I can go to sleep, I make up happy endings to the stories of the children that I see. Yes, I make up happy fairy tale endings so that I can go to sleep. When I'm 18, I returned to the United States to begin to create my own fairy tale life. By the time I am in my late 30s, 39 to be exact, I have everything: a PhD in anthropology, caring husband, beautiful daughter. I've got a meaningful job. I work with Asian refugees who are survivors of trauma. We own our own home in a quiet neighborhood in Fairfax. I'm involved in the community, involved in my daughter's school. Yes, I have. I'm doing everything just right. So why is the princess in the story so unhappy? The princess is unhappy because the princess is asleep. It's a hot August evening when I catch my first glimpse of myself asleep. I'm outside in the garden pulling weeds, cutting back the early summer flowers, sap long gone. When our red Ford Fairlane, it pulls into the driveway and out bounces my daughter Tess. She's 6 years old. Blonde, blue-eyed, lanky, just like her dad.
We got Mary Poppins for me. Dad got a video for both of you to watch.
My husband opens the trunk of the car. He takes out groceries. Tess, she's got her armload of stuffed animals, and I watch them disappear into the kitchen. And that is when I see the window pane between us. I'm cut off. I'm pressed up against a window pane, looking at them from the other side. Suddenly, I drop into an emptiness as hollow as the dead stalks of flowers I have just cut back. There is a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. I close my eyes. I do not want to see this crack in the picture of my perfect life. I want to go back to sleep, but I can't. So, I prune instead. I cut everything in my garden back. Flowers still blooming, dead stalks, roses, shrubs, I cut everything back. For the rest of that summer, I garden ferociously. You see, I'm digging for something that I've lost. 2 months later, I've got a blind spot in my eye. It's a small stroke, that's what the doctor says. You've got to slow down, Carol, stay at home. You need rest. But I can't slow down, and I don't want to stay at home and rest because the walls and the floor of my home, they're cracking. So I take up lifting weights. I give up one full-time job for 4 part-time jobs because exercise and diversity, it can make a difference. I tell my husband, John, I'm depressed. Why not, he says. Your father's dying. My mother calls from their home in Alexandria, Virginia. Carol, thank God you're there. Your father is convinced you're lying on the floor beside him, that you're dead. He insists. He's running through hotel rooms looking for you. He is sure that you're dead. I'm right here, Dad. I'm alive. Dad, I'm all right. I'll be there by noon. Something terrible has happened, Carol. Be careful. Be very careful, because you see, they've covered the whole thing up. They've covered it up. What are you saying, Dad? What is my father saying? I never find out. You see, my dad dies. It's 2 days later. It's a beautiful spring day when Dad dies. Dad, he'll miss this, I think. And then I think, I don't know if my dad cared for the seasons. I don't know if I care. The March sun burns right through my empty chest, and I look inside to feel, to find my heart. It's not there. I change jobs. I get a new position. It's in Baltimore, and it's an hour and a half by car from where I live in Fairfax. I will drive 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week, because driving gives me a feeling of mobility. And you see, I'm desperate for mobility. I'm inside my car. I'm going 65 miles an hour down the highway when it happens. It is like an answer to a question that has been running round and round inside my head. I hear 3 words: fat, sweaty, man. And suddenly, I'm this small. I'm lying down, but I'm this small, and my pajamas, they're being pulled off, and I'm kicking, I'm saying, no, no, and I'm holding on to the steering wheel all at the same time saying, come back, Carol, come back, keep the car from running off the highway, come back, and it stops. The story stops. I pull over to the roadside. I'm shaking like a maple leaf. Some great divide has just opened, and I have fallen deep inside. I am like an Alice fallen down a rabbit hole that is too dark, and I am falling. I am falling. I find a therapist immediately. Thank God I know enough to do it, and I hold on. Hold on, Carol! Because my life erupts with stories. They come unannounced. Some come with a warning. Sharp wind, sucking sound, strange smell. It makes me look around, and then I see myself. Black, gray, half light, a small child standing at the mouth of a long tunnel. I'm running toward myself, calling, promise not to tell, promise, promise. I write everything down. I scribble words. I scroll pictures of these wide pants, dark, polished shoes, sounds. They pound in my ear. I write everything down. I build a raft that I cling to. I leave my husband. I leave my daughter with my husband for her safety. I move closer to work because the long drive, the quiet stillness inside the car, it's dangerous. I learn a new kind of breathing so that when they come, faceless hands, fingers, when they touch my body, I will shiver, I will cry, but I will not go back to sleep. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years pass. I learn to navigate the deep, to follow threads of stories through this labyrinth of tunnels, you see. I am looking for my heart. I want to find who took it. I want it back. If I can find who took my heart, I will get it back. One night, I am suddenly back in the driveway in Fairfax. I see myself as I did that hot August evening, a window pane away from my own family, a frozen window pane away from my own life. I see myself for who I really am. I'm clever. I am so very clever. I have made this whole thing up to get out of my marriage, to bail myself out of a passionless life. I didn't have enough courage to do it on my own. So I made this whole thing up. Finally, I fall asleep. 2 a.m., sharp pain down my back, and I sit upright in bed. The earth cracks open. I hear the pat, pat, pat of black patent leather party shoes. I see a dress, it is too clean, covering something that is not clean. Sitting in my rocking chair, I'm 3. I'm playing with a wind-up doll. I've lost the key. I bend to look for it somewhere. Door slams. Footsteps down the hallway toward my room. I don't look up. Green pants, wide, dark, polished shoes. Then arms, they sweep me up, up, up into the air, and then down, 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 past frozen faces, mouths turned down. A broken howdy-doody doll is swish, 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 pushed into the dark where I'm crying. Take me back! Take me back! I do research. I become an underworld detective for 4 years, for 5 years, for 6 years, 6. I work with other women who, like myself, must learn to weave a life above and underground together, because we will not go to sleep. We will not go back to sleep. I put names, I put faces together. I study travel records. My mother, my older sister, they help. I follow nightmare dreams through caves of memory, back through the countries to the castles where we lived, back to the rooms that I played in, back to the rooms where I was taken, back, back, back to the fat, sweaty man. I find him. Yes, my father's boss.